Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Before I kind of dive into the webinar today, I just want to introduce my lovely colleague Jason, who is on the line with me, and he will be looking after kind of the chat and the Q&A function. So that kind of leads nicely onto a little bit of housekeeping. As this is a webinar, you will all be muted for the session. But we really do love questions and we love interactions. So if there's anything that you want to ask or anything that you would like to go over, please pop it in the chat or the Q&A, and Jason will either highlight it to me or he'll be able to answer that for you. Okay. So in today's webinar, we are looking at the reporting and dashboarding functionality in LifeQI. So on the screen, you can see the agenda, and the types of things we're going to go over today are looking at how we can use dashboards to capture different types of work. So there's lots of ways that we can use the analytics dashboards area. So the examples we're going to look at today is how you can use it to capture any kind of cross-organizational work, any thematic or specific working groups, kind of quality improvement work in LifeQI. We're then going to have a bit of a look at a couple of examples of dashboards, and we're going to have a look at the types of metrics that are available on those dashboards. We're then going to have a look at a different type of reporting, and that's actually our reports in LifeQI. So what is the difference? What are those reports? The types of reports available, and how we can use them to support individual project work and also reporting on multiple projects. So that's everything we're going to cover today. Now, I've just seen a couple more people jump in. So hello, thank you so much for joining us today. In case you missed the beginning, just to let you know that my name is Sophie and I've got my lovely colleague Jason on the line with me. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A function. Okay, perfect. So the first thing to think about is what are the reporting kind of functionality we have and what's the difference between them. So as we've mentioned within our agenda, we have the kind of analytics dashboarding side, and we also have the actual reports in LifeQI. So before we jump into the system, I thought I would just explain a little bit of the differences between them. So we tend to use our analytics dashboards for more of a live analysis of what is happening with our improvement work across an area or an organization or a specific location. So this is a live repository. So every time you look at it, it's giving you real-time analytics of the improvement work that's taking place. The reporting side of it is where you would run a report at a specific point in time. Now, the reports can be run at an individual project level or across multiple projects, and we will have a look at that in a little bit more detail later. But I'm now going to jump in and we're going to have a look at a couple of examples of some analytics dashboards. So the first thing is, where do we find them? How do we access our dashboards? So the way to get to our dashboards are through the main navigation bar on the left-hand side of our page and within this analytics area here. So if we click on that, it's going to open up our analytics space. Now, this may look different for everybody. Some organizations have loads of bespoke analytics made for them, which we are more than happy to support you with. So if after today's session you go, oh, I don't have any of these and I'd really like to set some of them up, then please reach out to your success manager and we'll be more than happy to help. But this is where all of the dashboards are stored. Now, everybody has access to a default dashboard, which is created when you kind of use LifeQI. But like I said, depending on what you have set up, this view might look different for people. But there's different types of dashboards that we can have. So we set up dashboards based on kind of data sets within LifeQI, and we can do that for lots of different areas. We could have a dashboard looking at all of the improvement work happening across your organization as a whole. We could then break that down, and it might be that you want to kind of organize your work in LifeQI through directorates or divisions or services. We can then create dashboards for those individual areas, and that's really good to help encourage that local ownership of quality improvement work. It might be that you have a training cohort and you want to track the work that's happening within that cohort, or even a specific theme of work that's taking place, and you want to be able to analyze and see what's happening within that theme of work. So there's lots of different ways we can create these dashboards and how you can use them. So we're going to have a look at a couple of examples, look at the types of metrics that are available and how these are organized. So the first one we are going to look at here is my Bay Health organizational dashboard. Now, this is giving me data across all of the improvement work that's happening under Bay Health organization. So on here, we can pull this up live in a meeting and we can kind of understand what's happening. But this is giving us the metrics to track what is happening. So as an example, the types of metrics we can pull through are we can look at the total amount of active projects, so ones that are actively happening within our organization. We can look at projects that are showing improvement. So out of all of our active projects, how many of those are showing improvement? How many are showing significant improvement? Or maybe even outstanding results? We're also able to track our active projects over time, so we can see how they are growing kind of month on month, and we would like to see that going up, obviously, so we know that there is more improvement work taking place over time. Another nice metric that we can have on here is, just to explain quickly, in LifeQI we can organise and categorise work in different ways. Now, one of the ways that we do that is through the use of groups. And more often than not, organizations use groups to kind of dictate their organizational structure. So for example, we would have groups set up for divisions or their directorates or your service lines. Now, by using these groups and linking those to projects, what that's going to give us, it's going to give us an oversight of obviously everything happening within Bay Health, but also then how that is broken down by each individual area. So you can see here on my dashboard that I've actually got a really nice chart that is showing me the projects by progress score broken down by each group. And in this case, my groups are representative of my divisions. So I can see within my cardiac division, I have one project scoring a 5, so outstanding kind of sustainable results. I have 2 scoring a 4.5, 2 at a 3.5, and so on. So this is a really nice visual way to understand what is happening within specific areas of your organization. Another nice visual we have here is kind of as a whole, what our progress scores look like over time. So obviously we would hope to see that in time we're getting more projects showing improvement, and we'd like to see a little bit of change within this chart here. We can also then track kind of new projects. So this is quite a helpful metric. So we want to know how many projects have been created within the last week and who's leading on them, which areas of the organization they're linked to, and what it is that they're actually doing. So we can also track new projects created in the last 7, 30 or 90 days, if that's an important metric to you. And another kind of chart that I really like is the project started each month. So we can see if there's any kind of months that stand out, that there are a lot of projects started. So you might see, that within June we had 5 new projects started, which is a lot compared to the others. So was something going on? Was there a training cohort taking place? A couple of other things to look at here is how many completed projects. So how many have gone through the whole life cycle and they are now completed. So we can track that as a whole, but we can also see how many projects have been completed within a certain time frame. So 7 days, 30 days, 90 days, etc. So the next part of the dashboard kind of goes back to that organizing and categorizing work I was talking about. We've spoken about the groups element and being able to align to specific areas of the organization as a group. But we also have the ability to create and set up our trust-wide priorities or our organizational-wide priorities on LifeQI. We can then link these to projects and track how many projects are happening against that priority. And that's what we can see here. So I can see my 4 organizational-wide priorities: improve patient experience, health outcomes, staff experience, and operational efficiencies, and how many projects I have aligned to each of those priorities. If we wanted to kind of drill down even more, we can then actually see how many are demonstrating improvement against that priority. And at the bottom, we've kind of got a nice visualization of how many projects are aligned to each of my divisions, and that's by the group's structure, okay? So this is a really good, quick way to be able to understand at a glance, in real time, what is happening across our organization. Now, the other thing that's really good with these dashboards is all of these numbers we see here, all of these counts, these are clickable. So if I was like, oh, okay, well, I've got 4 projects that are showing outstanding results, that's great. I want to really understand which projects they are, where they're happening, and how they've got to the point of having outstanding results. What I can do is I can actually click on that number. That's then going to take me through to an already filtered list of all of the projects that are scoring that 5.0. So if I wanted to, I could then click into each of these projects and really understand the detail behind every one of those projects. So that's the first kind of example of a dashboard that we're going to look at. Now, on to the next example, it's thinking about kind of that structure, that organizational structure. So if we want to really think about encouraging that local ownership of quality improvement work and kind of being able to understand exactly what's happening within a specific division or a specific area, we can then set up dashboards to show that. Okay, so let me just jump into this one. And this is an example of my children's division dashboard here. So the metrics I've got are relatively similar, but the difference is this is obviously drilling down to one area of our organization. We can then see how many active projects, how many completed projects we have, understand the project progress relevant to this specific area. And another thing that we can actually report on in LifeQI and bring through to our dashboards is service user involvement. So if that's something that's really important within your organization, we can tag the projects, whether they have big I, little I, or maybe no service user involvement, and we can bring that through to your dashboards as well. So that is quite a commonly used metric on the dashboards that we see. Another thing that we can add to our dashboards, which I find particularly helpful, is our project summary table. Now, this is essentially a table of all of the projects that are happening within our children's division group on LifeQI. But it's giving me the top level information from every single project on my dashboard. So instead of having to click into every project and see what might be happening, how many PDSAs they're running, I can look here at this table and see exactly what's going on. So on this one, we've got kind of the title of it, the aim of our project, when it was started, my progress score, lead user. We can then see how many PDSA cycles and ramps they might be running, how many measures and SPC charts they might have within their project. And one area that I find helpful is the last status update. So on a project, you can create a status update on your timeline. Now that's reportable, so we can bring that through to this project table so you're able to understand exactly what that last update was on that specific project. Now, the reason I find this helpful is I don't know if you've all noticed, but the top project, Increasing Joy at Work, it's scoring a 5, but I can't see that they've got any PDSAs or they've got any SPC charts. So that would make me think, why is this project scoring a 5 and saying they've got outstanding sustainable results when it doesn't seem that there's any detail in the project? So by using this, you could then reach out to that user or go and take a look at that project and try and understand exactly what's happening and why it might be scoring so high. So that's 2 examples of the different types of dashboards we've got. We've got your organizational wide, looking at everything taking place and then kind of breaking it down to that individual division. Another one I really quickly want to show you before we move on to kind of the cross-organizational piece is this is a example dashboard of all of the work, the COVID response work. Okay, so it's just another way to organize your work in LifeQI. It doesn't have to be your divisions and your directorates. It could be done off themes like we can see here. So our COVID response work, it could be done, like I mentioned earlier, your training cohorts. It could even be done for, anything that you want to group your projects by. We can absolutely do that in LifeQI and then create you your individual dashboards. Now, I won't go into this one in too much detail because it's showing pretty much everything we've already looked at, but it's just good to highlight that there are different ways that we can organize and report on your work. Okay. The next one we're going to kind of think about is a cross-organizational dashboard. Now, we are getting more and more requests for this, which is really exciting to see. It's really great, to have this cross-organizational work. And by using LifeQI for that, it's going to give the ability for oversight on both of those organizations of exactly what's happening as a whole, combined, but also then broken down by those organizations as well. So the example we can see here is kind of broken down in the same way as the first one we looked at for just Bay Health, but this is actually giving us our combined quality improvement project overview. So what I'm seeing here is across both of my organizations, how many projects do we have running? How many of those are active and how many of those are completed? We can then look at our combined project progress. So as a whole, across both organizations, how are we doing? It might be then that we want to look at how you're doing across kind of shared priorities, or even maybe split them out. So I want to be able to see how this organization is doing against those priorities and this is doing against those. What we can then do is we can then think about actually in one place, breaking this down by organization, by trust. So I can then have kind of the similar counts, the similar metrics of exactly what's happening in each organization. So I can then see, well, out of my 5 total active projects, 3 of those are taking place in Bay Health and 2 of those are taking place in Green Valley. And then at the bottom, we've got another project summaries as well. But as I mentioned, this is being requested more, and the dashboards have been really, really helpful in actually encouraging that cross-organizational learning and that combined effort of quality improvement work. Because this is accessible through the internet and because we can open this up to both organizations, they can come in here and they can understand exactly what's happening. And then it might be that I'm working for Green Valley and I want to have a look at kind of the projects that are happening within Bay Health. See if there's any ideas, see if there's anything I can take from that. I could come to this dashboard, I could click on this number here and it would take me through to that project list. So I could then see what's happening, see if there's anything I want to adopt and start in my organization. So it's not just good for reporting, it's also good for that visibility and that cross-learning as well. So that's kind of an overview of the analytics dashboards, the types of metrics we would use, and also how we might use them. I'm going to take a pause there and I'm just going to check in and see if we've got any questions or anything that anyone would like me to go over at this point at all.
Thanks, Sophie. Yeah, no questions come in so far. I think you did a really thorough job, so that's great. And I've shared a few help articles in the chat. People kind of take away and do a bit more reading. And I'll share a few more as we go on. But yeah, just a reminder, if you've got any questions, please do throw them into the chat or the Q&A, pick them up, and we'll try and address them as we move through.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. Okay, so that's thinking about the analytics side of things and how we can use that for reporting. Now, the other reporting that we spoke about earlier is the actual reports and how they differ. So they're obviously a snapshot in time. Now, not many people know that we can create bespoke reports for you. So these don't have to be kind of, just a boring report, there's different ways that we can utilize the project reporting in LifeQI. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at a couple of examples of a project, this individual project level report, and we're then going to look at how we might report on multiple projects at one time. So let me just jump into my reducing precious soils project here. Now, as I mentioned, we don't have to just have kind of like a standard overview report which just pulls off information of the project. We can use the reporting in quite a unique and exciting way. So a couple of examples of how people use it are maybe a project completion certificate. So users can run this report off their project. It's a nice visual certificate with the date that they completed it, and they can then have that as part of their quality improvement portfolios. They can take that off LifeQI, they can have that and say, look, these are the projects that I've completed. It might be that you want your users to be doing a kind of update report on their projects every month or every 6 months as a way to report on kind of the barriers that they may have encountered or the breakthroughs or any exciting kind of, we ran this really good PDSA and it was amazing and we want to kind of shout about it because, it went really well. We could also use it for just kind of to pull that information off LifeQI. So, we can pull off the driver diagram, the images of the charts. So there's lots of different ways that we can use project level reporting. And you can absolutely create bespoke reports for whatever you want. Obviously with limitations, but we are absolutely here to help you with that. So the same with the dashboards. If anything you see that we go over today, you think, oh, that would work really well for us, please do just reach out to your success manager and we'll be more than happy to help get those set up for you. So a project level report is run through the specific project itself. The way we do that is through this actions button on the kind of top right-hand side of our project. Now, by clicking on that, we're going to see this reports option. Similar to the view of the analytics area, what you can see will depend on what is open to your organization. Some of you might have lots and lots of bespoke report templates already created. Others may not. So the list will differ depending on your organizational setup. But we're going to have a look at a couple of examples. So the first one we're going to look at is quite a simple one, but it's a progress score change. So I might want my every time that they update their progress score to run a report that gives me an explanation as to why they have updated their progress score. So this is what this one is super simple. And all we need to do on here is we've got a nice free text option. So the users are going to tell us why that progress score has been changed. Okay. They would fill in the detail. All they would then need to do is click Create Report. What would happen once I click Create Report, I'll just do that quickly, is it would take us through to the report area. From here, we would then be able to export that report through this Actions button if we wanted to. But what will also happen is it will automatically save within my document area here on my project, so we can refer back to it at a later date as well. So that's a nice kind of basic example of something that we can do. Let's just have a look at a couple of others. So another one which we see quite often is a project completion certificate. So let's run that one and see what that might look like on our project. So here we've got our nice logo, we've got the title, it's pulling off the lead user of our project. So it's awarded to the lead user, the person kind of running that project. We can then add in the month and the year that quality improvement project was completed. So nice and visual. And in the same way as before, you could pull that off as a PDF, but it would also save automatically within your project folder. Another one we're going to have a quick look at, which is quite a widely used one. It's something like an overview project report. So this is used in multiple ways. It could be if you wanted to pull off all the information of your project and kind of have that outside of Life QI. So as you can see, what this report's doing here is it's pulling that information from my project. So my aim, my rationale, my start date, what priorities are linked to this project. My driver diagram, it pulls that off there. We can then see it's pulling off all of the different measures and the images of our charts. And then at the bottom here, this has got kind of a status update. So this might be used in I'm running this once a month and I'm using this to report on the status of my project. So we see people doing this quite regularly. They will run a report like this, add the status update, and then that might be sent off to a board meeting or a kind of quality improvement hub meeting or whatever it might be. They might run it in here, save it in the project folder, and then that is reviewed as part of a meeting on a regular basis. So just another example of the types of reports that we can run here. Okay. Now, these are all, quite small reports. I haven't shown you any of the more detailed one, but we can pull off your PDSA details from the project. We can add more detail from the detail section. We can add more free text areas. There's lots of different things we can add to these reports if that would be helpful. Okay. So I think they're the best ones to show you. The next thing we are going to think about is now, how do we report on multiple projects? And this is a request we get quite a lot. So we see quite a lot of organizations wanting to be able to pull off all of the top level information from all of the projects happening within their organization, or maybe all of the projects happening within a specific division. So we do have the ability to report on multiple projects in Life QI. Now, the way that we do that is we're actually just going to come to the projects area here. Now, when we're in the projects area, when you first come in here, we need to be kind of conscious of the filters that we're using, because we want to be able to see the right list in order to report on it. So I'm going to cover that first, and I'll show you how to run those reports. But say, for example, I need to run a project list report for every single project happening within my organization. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to check my filters on the right-hand side. So when you come to the projects area, it will default to my active projects. So this list is only the projects that I am either actively participating in or I am leading on, okay? So I want to be able to change this list to show me all of the projects happening under my organization. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the filter my orgs projects, and I'm then going to untick my projects. That now is going to give me a list of every single project happening within my organization. So scrolling down, I can see that I've got 83 projects taking place. So once I've got the filters right, I can then run the report. So the way to do that is by clicking this actions button, clicking reports, and same as before, the list you see will depend on what you've got set up within your organization. But there is a standard Life QI project summaries list in this report section, okay? And that will pull off the top level information. So your title, aim, lead user, etc. But if there are specific fields you want to report on, we can create your own list reports, okay? But let me just quickly run this one. So we have recently added a new reporting feature, which I particularly like and have found really helpful, but we now have different reportable fields. So earlier when we were talking about kind of the organization of your work in Life QI by division or directorate or service line, those roles are now reportable. So what we can do is we can actually add them to a project list report. So if you wanted to, on this report, see not just kind of what the progress score is, how many SPC charts it is, but also where it's linked within your organization, as long as everything's linked up correctly, we can add those as a reportable field to this list report for you. So if that's something you might be interested in, then again, please do let us know and we'd be more than happy to kind of talk that process through in a bit more detail with you. But this now is my project summaries report. This one's quite a basic one. The one kind of in the live system has a little bit more detail, but this is just giving me kind of the title, the aim, progress score, my lead user's name, how many members are on that project. Scroll all the way to the bottom. And I believe this one gives me kind of how many SPC charts, how many PDSAs are being run as well. Let me just wait for that to load. So with these list reports, we can actually export this as a CSV and then save that as an Excel. If you want to do that, it would be through your actions button here, that CSV option, that would then pull this information off in that CSV format for you. Okay. So yeah, as I mentioned, this one's quite a basic one, but this can be a really comprehensive report, and it is something that organizations utilize quite a lot. So I think I've already mentioned you can have things like the count of PDSA cycles or ramps, the count of measures and SPC charts. You can have what tags are on that project, what priorities are linked to that project. You can have which area of the organization is on that project. So there's lots and lots of good information we can pull, okay? Now I do just want to kind of go back to my project list and just go over those filters as well. So we use those filters to have the list of all of the projects happening within my organization, but it might be that I am responsible for the children's division and I need to come in on a monthly basis and I want to run a project list report on just the projects happening within that specific division. We can do that by using this more filters option here. So what we're going to do is we're going to untick my orgs projects and we're going to tick more filters. Now from here, we can see that there's lots of different options for us to drill down that project list report. But as for this example, we're going to have a look at how to filter it to kind of a specific location within our organization. So I'd come down to my groups and I would type in the relevant group. I would find that, I would click that one there, and then that's going to filter my list to my children's division. Now, obviously, the caveat being here that you would need to have all of this set up in LifeQI. So if you're not already kind of utilizing the group functionality to report on areas of your organization and you want to, let us know and we can help sort that for you. But it also might be that I want to kind of drill down and I just want to run a report on the completed projects within my organization or only those that are showing improvement. You can use any of these filters here to drill down that project list, and then in exactly the same way as we did before, you would come to your actions button and you would click reports and then run that project summaries report. Okay. So I'll just take a quick breath and see if there's been any questions or anything anyone would like me to go over at all.
Thanks, Sophie. We've had a few pieces come through on the chat, which I've answered mainly with sharing some of the help articles, so no real sort of outstanding questions there. And we've also had someone come in just a second ago saying they joined late, but we're going to be sharing the recording of this afterwards. And the answer to that is yes, we will be sending out by email a link to the recording. That normally goes out within about 48 hours, hopefully within 24, but probably 48. So yeah, you should get a follow-up email with a link to that as well. And yeah, do try and grab some of the help articles that I've shared through the chat with lots of extra useful information in there as well.
Absolutely. And just kind of on the help articles that thank you so much, Jason, for sharing those. But it's probably worth me pointing out as well that we do have our help centre here. So this is where you will find everything that you need to know. So you can always navigate to here using this link that Jason can pop in the chat, but you can also get to our help centre through LifeQI. So you'll notice at the top of every page in LifeQI, there's a blue Get Help With text up here. If you click on that, it's going to take you through to the relevant area of the help centre where you'll be able to search for kind of the answer that you may be looking for. But we do have on every article, there's really kind of clear step-by-step instructions of how to do it in LifeQI. And in the majority of them as well, there are either full tutorial videos or there's kind of the bite-size mini videos, which just kind of showing you going over the steps that you need to take. So if at any point you do get stuck or you do want to remind yourself of anything we've gone over in today's webinar, absolutely jump on the Help Centre. You can also use our live chat button at the bottom, which will take you through to our dedicated help desk team who, although I may be biased, they are absolutely fantastic and they are on hand to help you with whatever you need. But that's kind of everything we're going to cover for today. But I really, really hope that that's been useful for you all. Now, as I've kind of mentioned throughout the webinar today, if you've seen anything during the session that you think, oh, that would be really good for us, or we're not using this correctly, or we would like to set up any kind of bespoke reporting or analytics, please do reach out to us and we would be more than happy to help get that all set up and sorted for you. Okay. But before I let everyone get 5 minutes back in the day, I'm just going to check for one last time and just give it a couple of seconds and see if anybody has any further questions that they would like to ask before we kind of end for the day.
But we've just had one come in, one last minute question come in to the Q&A. How do you record qualitative data on LifeQI?
Okay. Really good question and kind of something that we get asked regularly, but at the moment we don't necessarily have the kind of chart types to have your qualitative data in a chart. It's more for that quantitative data. But the way that we recommend people doing that is you can actually upload documents to your project. So if you've got surveys or survey questions, you can absolutely add that as an attachment within the document area on your project. So although you may not be able to chart it specifically, what you can do within your project here is in this document area there, you can upload different files and then all of your information will be stored within one area. I don't know if Jason's got anything he would like to add to that, but that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I'd concur with that. Certainly the most common approach at the moment is, uploading it as files.
Perfect. Great. Well, it looks like has any more questions come in, Jason, or
no, I think we're good. A few people
Amazing.
saying thanks, they enjoyed the session.
Perfect.
Yeah, so far that's it.
Amazing. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. It's been really great to have you all here. Like I said, reach out to us if there's anything we can do to help and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.
Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.